All right. Well, I can honestly say this is one of my favorite trucks I've owned. I got this a year ago. Traded in my 2015 High Country 6.2. So I'll mainly be comparing this to that. I've had the 5.3s as well, and liked all of Chevy's stuff, but I'm gonna go over a few things. Things I like, which are most everything, and a few things that I wish I'd done just a little bit different. First off, I'll show you the mileage. 1 year, I'm at 13,668. And most of that's been a combination of highway and in-town driving. I live in southeast Missouri, so there's quite a few hills. They call it the foothills here, the Ozark Mountains, which they're not really mountains if you're from anywhere with mountains, but close enough, I guess, for what we got. So there's a lot of up and downhill driving. So first thing I'll do, I guess, is show you what the computer says I do for mileage and all that. So, just started the truck. Right here, I'm getting about, on average, between everything, since I've last 50, but 25 and a half, the best being 33. Will tell you, most people know this, but if you use cruise control, you don't get the mileage like you do normally if you just drive it without. It kind of helps. You can feather the throttle yourself up and down these hills here. You drive it normally, I'll get 27 and a half to 29 miles to the gallon, depending on wind and speed and how aggressive I drive. If I drive normal and it's not a real windy day, I'll get 29 pretty easily. That's like at 72 miles an hour. That seems to be the butter zone for mileage. Also, I've got about almost 32 before, going about 150 miles or so. Well, I was going 2-lane back roads the whole way, going between 55 and 65 miles an hour. It really likes that as well. So if you're one of these type drivers, you'll get some incredible fuel mileage out of these. A few things I wish. This is an LTZ, so we have the leather. The interior's pretty nice. I hear a lot of other guys will talk about how firm the seats are, and I agree, they are firm. They were super firm when I first got the truck, after about 13,000 miles or so. They've actually broke in pretty nicely. That or I've gotten used to them. I don't know. I drive a Ford F-150 for work. I would say that the F-150 seats are probably more comfortable. Seem like they're a little wider as well in the F-150, but these are super comfortable regardless. They've got the heated seats and cooled seats. Works really well. I've tinted the windows so it kind of keeps the sun off the black interior, because we're black on black here. Black truck, black interior. Everything's held up really well as far as door panels go. There's no rattles. It comes with the floor mats from Chevy with the Z71. Those are critical. If you're going to buy one, definitely get those. It saves your floor for sure. A few things I wish that it did have that it doesn't. These are just minor little things, I guess, not really super important to some people, but to me there is. I like to kind of see, like on the Ford 10-speed, I like to see what gear it's in, not just drive, but what, if I'm in first, if I'm in second. The only way to really do that is if you did it manually, like so, and then you shifted it manually. I kind of like to know, if I'm driving or pulling or whatever, what gear I'm in. I don't know why that's important to me, but it just seems like it is. I like to have a lot of information on the screen. As you can tell, I've got everything you could possibly think of sitting here. Another thing, some people complain about not being able to tell when it's in regen. I really don't care about that. These diesel engines aren't like the big boys as far as the regen goes. It works a little bit differently from what I'm told and researched from other channels. So knowing it's in regen is not that critical. You can kind of tell that it is by the different sound that it makes. your temperature will go up a little bit more than normal, and you will lose a little bit of mileage, but just for a short period. So the mileage is really good. DEF consumption, this is the LM2. So my DEF, man, I hardly ever use DEF. Every 5,000 miles or so, I'll put 3.5 gallons in it, probably, which is a little more than half a tank. I don't pull a whole lot. I do have a small camper, which I'll show you here in a second. It's not very heavy. It's probably 5,000 pounds. So when I pull the camper, I get probably 15 miles to the gallon, 15 and a half, maybe 16. And I will burn more DEF, because, well, obviously you burn more fuel, you burn more DEF. Exterior of the truck, it's really nice. Paint's good. I haven't had any real bad rock chipping or anything like that. Tailgate, I've added a tonneau cover to it, which is pretty neat. Keeps all your stuff nice and dry. It's got the power lift gate just to keep my stuff back here. My golf clubs, everything stays nice and dry. The tires that they put on here factory, they're nice and quiet on the highway. They did well on the snow and the ice. I'd probably go with a different brand. I'm not a big Bridgestone guy, but they seem to be all right. Got some mud on it. I turned around on a gravel road last night, but tinted windows. I put these were factory running boards that I had to purchase myself, but they look really good. Front end, as you can see, nice chrome grille with LTZ package. All the sensors and all that stuff work really well. The cameras work really well. I'll show you. I did do a few add-ons here and there on it. Under the hood, nothing serious. I recommend these to anybody that buys one of these trucks, no matter if it's the diesel or the gas burners. I'm not sure about the 4-cylinders. I don't know anybody's actually got one of those yet. So first thing I did, PPE makes a resonator delete right there. Went ahead and got that, took that out. The other piece is large. It's got a lot of baffling in it just to keep the turbo noise down, which I will say, this engine's so quiet, even with this stuff out, you still don't even really hear it inside the cab or outside the cab, as that matter. And I also went and put a cold air intake tube from the air box, as you can see right there, back there in the red. That's a CFT Performance one. It's a pretty decent one. It's a cheaper one. There's been a few people complain about how it fits and things, and I did have some struggle fitting in here. This angle right here is a little off. I was able to tweak the airbox a little bit to change that, and it works fine. It sounds pretty good. You really don't hear it totally. You can kind of hear the turbo flutter a little bit when you let off the fuel. Stoplight or whatever, you can kind of hear it. It's pretty nice. I will say I did pick up some throttle response. Horsepower I don't know about, but I know definitely throttle response, and a little bit of mileage, maybe half a mile per gallon, maybe a little more. When I added this, I don't know, it just happened to be the same time the truck broke in, or what the story is with that. But first 5,000 miles, I did burn about a quart of oil on this. And so I've been kind of keeping an eye on it. They say they use a little bit of oil. Ever since then, after the break-in, I haven't used a drop. To be honest with you, I check it all the time because it's kind of OCD that I have. So that hasn't been an issue whatsoever. I haven't had any other issues at all. No engine lights, nothing. Everything's worked perfectly so far. The other thing that I put on, which I think is a really nice piece for the money, and it's real super easy to put on, is the Still-In air scoop. If you look at the stock version, it'll have little slots in here that go across this, and you can actually see down between the radiator and the louvers down in here, and you can pick up some engine heat, which I thought was not a great idea, but yeah, it worked fine as long as you're going straight down the road. But at an idle in town, I could see where that might be an issue. So this one actually takes this, scoops it, through here, out the front, picks it up and pushes it down into the intake. And that intake goes down and in through the air box. I haven't changed the air box yet. I haven't found anything that I like. There's a couple of them out there. S&B makes one. K&N makes a nice one that if you like a lot of sound, yeah, I get one of those. But the only reason they make a lot of sound is because the top of the box is actually open right here. The K&N has a filter that sits right here. And the S&B actually sits up over the support rail with two intakes here. So you actually hear all of this pulling through into the turbo, which is fine. But you're also pulling air from the engine compartment, which doesn't make sense to me. But if you like to hear it, get one. I mean, to each their own. They look pretty cool too, don't get me wrong, but I just don't feel like that's a great idea for the engine. So that's pretty much all I've done besides the running boards and a tonneau cover, which I always recommend a tonneau cover because you can just roll it up if you're not using it, and it seems like you gain a little mileage out of it. It keeps your stuff dry. I wouldn't say secure, obviously, but I did put a bug shield on it. You don't really notice it on the black trucks, and I put a little stubby antenna, which, I mean, nobody actually listens to a radio anymore, do they? Everybody's got satellite radio or using their iPhones, which this one does come with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which work really nicely. Touchscreen works great. No lag. Sirius Radio works fine. So other than that, I really don't have a whole lot of complaints. I definitely recommend this to anyone looking for one. The 3-liter Duramax, I think, is probably the best engine platform Chevy makes right now. I will say that the reason I traded my other truck in, my 15 High Country with a 6.2, only had 80,000 miles, but I dropped the lifters in it twice. Fuel management problem. Dropped them. They repaired it. GM stood behind it. Drove it about 1,000 miles. Lost them all again. Of course, GM, they had to redo it all. I took care of it. I mean, the dealers around here really took care of me. But I was just kind of wanting to change because it put a sour taste in my mouth. So I researched these 3 liters. I went to LM2 because at the time that's all they had. Didn't have the LZ0 out just yet. I don't know if I would have waited on the LZ0 or not. You do get a little more horsepower, a little more torque. But you can watch reviews on those LZ0s. I think Demon Works, he's got one. I watched a lot of his when I was researching these. Tim over at Pickup Truck Plus, SUV Talk, he has one he's driving. I recommend looking at his YouTubes. He does it for a living, does a lot better job than I do. But the LM2 doesn't seem to have all the problems now. They had a few issues at front with long crank, no starts, and a few other small items. But so far this 22, I guess they've got it figured out and haven't had any issues. And LZ0, I know they've had a few engine lights on here and there, mainly DEF related. I think it does use more DEF. And I'm not sure about the mileage. I think the mileage is pretty close to the same. I think you gain a little bit in town and lose a little bit on the highway, so you're averaged out to about the same, whatever. But yeah, that's my review of this truck. Would I buy it again? In a heartbeat. Everybody I talk to that's looking for a new truck, I recommend them. 3 liters where it's at. They're the only one half-ton available with a diesel now, so if you're looking for a diesel half-ton, this is it. Or the GMC Sierra, obviously. And they have them in their SUVs now. Like I said, I drive that guy right there every day with a 3.5 EcoBoost. It's okay. It gets me around. The 3.5s, I'm not real sure about. All of our other trucks and vans and things have the 3.5 EcoBoost, and I've dropped the mains out of mine, so I had to get this truck, and I've got 2 more guys at the office that they've lost a turbo, and another one lost the main bearings in his. So I'm not sold on the Fords. So anyway, hope everybody has a great day. I hope this helps anybody looking. But yeah, 22 refresh Chevy. 3-liter Duramax. Get you one.